Every time I watch that video, I still am just wowed by the experience. Hey, everybody, how's it going? I am Brian Burley, Diversity Recruitment Leader here with General Mills, and we are so excited to have you at our Spring You Are Here event. So, officially, as the sign says, you are right here on a Friday afternoon. Let's get some claps in the chat. Let's stay engaged. We're going to have some fun here for this hour. I saw you all already in the chat talking about your hometowns. My hometown, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and then we'll talk about where we're going. But my hometown is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. General Mills is based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I have a question for anyone in the chat. And Amanda, you find the first person. We'll come up with a gift for them. We're going to make it happen. Who can tell me, right? And I'm opening up the chat so I can see who comes in first, but Amanda's going to be my validation. Who can tell me what food do Pittsburghers put on everything? I'm talking salads, sandwiches, anything. What is our food as Pittsburghers that we put on everything? And I see we've got some international folks here, so I'm loving that. Ketchup would be a logical guess. I'm not mad at it, but not quite where we're going. But Amanda, you keep tracking the chat, and then we'll keep this going. But hey, I just am so excited to have you all here from all over the world, right? I saw Northern Ireland, Nigeria, right? We've got so much going on here. I'm so excited to have you. But, when I watch those videos, right, of course, we're a consumer packaged goods company, meaning that we house the products that you either have grown up with or hopefully have in your homes now. One of those being Cheerios. And when I think about where we're going, our company is, and in my experience over the course of the last 2 years, it's, of course, we're a food company, right? Of course, we sell packaged goods, but we're a people company, man. As you all saw in those videos, right? Like our people make everything work. And I love the fact that I get to work with some of the most intelligent, brightest, wittiest, funniest, sometimes a little bit of like, hey, we're over the top, right? Like we have a good time, as you all can see. But I get to work with some of the best people in the absolute world, right? And one of my favorite questions, my role rolls up into our talent acquisition space and also has kind of a dotted line into our DE&I space as well, who's somebody who you'll get to meet moving forward. But one of the first things, my favorite question that people have asked me, whether it's been on campus, whether it's been at a diversity conference, whatever the context is, hey, Brian, and I love it when it's eye contact to it, right? Too. So there's like this dramatic effect for it, right? Like we got to have some fun with it. But it's why do you stay, right? And of course, it could be the surface answer of like it's the people, right? And of course, the people are amazing. I just told you how incredible the people are, right? But in the work that I do, right, when we talk about representation and how much representation matters in doing diversity work, some people might not know, like, hey, this is not easy work, right? You all will get to meet somebody a little bit later on in the next couple of minutes who will tell you how not easy this work is. But quite plainly, this was the first place where I had ever gone or had conversations with that I didn't have to, I don't even want to use the word argue, but I didn't have to argue about the what or the why of diversity, right? Like, what is diversity and why does it matter? Quite plainly, that's such a disempowering or discouraging conversation. And honestly, to be really, really frank and transparent with you, it took a little bit for me to get used to because I was so used to having to have that be step one in the bag of trips, right? Like getting up to baseline. But with General Mills's history, with our history in inclusion, with our history in standing for good and doing what's right by all people, it's a completely different place. So we're super excited to have you here and tell you a little bit more about where we're going today and how we're going to get you there. But as we can kind of click forward, and Amanda, if you could click forward in the slide for us. When we talk about this event, right, the way it'll be kind of broken out, we'll start it off with the keynote, and I'll introduce this guy here in a second. But then we will go into an employee network panel where you'll meet some of the folks from our networks, younger professionals within the organization, new young leaders, not to say that Courtney's not, but new younger leaders within our organization who have such vibrancy to their story and to their spirit and to how they want to help you, right? And we want to make sure that we are delivering on everything that we said to you. And then Amanda will come on at the end, right after we get through this keynote kind of fireside chat and then a panel. And then Amanda will tell you a little bit more about the early access that you could potentially have in the next steps and how that works and operates. So without further ado, I have to introduce someone who When I came on board, right, there was one name first and foremost. Of course, people had talked about, because General Mills, we're not a company where diversity is just brand new, right? Like, we've had leaders in the space that have led our DE&I efforts, because we've had a DE&I office for over the last, we'll call it 20 to 30, almost 25 plus years, right? So we've had some folks that have been around, that have led. And when you hear some of those names, right, like, but when I was coming on, it was like, hey, you got to get with Courtney, right? Like, you got to figure out, Courtney's kind of going to be your kind of guide through the work. And, more than being a guide, one of the things that I'm most excited to talk to you all about him is he's somebody who's been a champion, right? Not just, and been a fighter, not just for diversity and equity, but for people, right? And Courtney's someone who's been absolutely incredible and very paramount in my growth and development. And more than that, he's been a friend, right? So getting into the formalized background, Courtney is a native of California. Do we have any California folks? I see someone just threw that in there. Courtney is a native of California, and he also went to UC Santa Barbara, and we're going to talk about a little bit about his undergrad career here in a second. But then went into consulting, right? And worked for Deloitte for a few years out of undergrad, came back, went through the consortium, which he'll tell you a little bit more about, and then came into marketing, right? At General Mills, fresh out of consortium, came into marketing, was rocking in that world, and then started to find a path into diversity and equity and belonging and inclusion. And it was just such an amazing story to have. And I'm so excited to have the opportunity to talk to you all about, quite plainly, right? Like, my partner in the work, right? Somebody who is a confidant, someone who's a friend, and someone who's an amazing father and husband. Yeah, I'll accept my payment afterwards from that, Courtney. But also our head of diversity, inclusion, and belonging, Mr. Courtney Schroeder. Courtney, give him a round of applause, folks. We got Courtney Schroeder here.
Well, that was indeed a glowing introduction.
You like that one?
We need to check in with a few folks to make sure all of that checks out. Great husband, great father. I try to be, but
Listen, she
but
sent me
I
the text, so
appreciate
I
you
got it.
saying
I
that.
can
So.
prove it. Well, hey man, we appreciate having you here, and for the audience of these the undergrads and the sophomores that we've been trying to get here for this event. But the first question that I want to jump into, right? Like, we can talk about your accolades, the 40 under 40s, all the accolades in the world, all day long, right? Like, we can run down the list. Who was Courtney when he was in undergrad, right? Like, was this who you always saw yourself being? But like, who was Courtney when he was an undergrad?
Well, that's a great question. Let me first just say, first of all, Brian, thank you for bringing always just such amazing energy. I think even those, it's a Friday afternoon, and this is probably the most energy and inspired I felt all day, and that's in large part to that amazing energy you bring in. And thank you for all for being here. I saw some gauchos in the crowd. We got folks coming to class, as you said, globally, and I really appreciate you spending time and getting to learn about us. And so, but to your question, Brian, it's hard. There's a saying: if you want to make God smile, tell him or her your plans, right? And so there was no way that if I go back to Courtney as a sophomore at UC Santa Barbara, I could have saw myself here. But I do think there are some true things about that experience and about a lot of experiences that actually led me to diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And so as a sophomore and undergrad, I was heavily involved in our Black Student Union. I was heavily involved in student government. I was engaged in our culture. I was engaged, Santa Barbara is sometimes known as a bit of party school. We do have a campus on a
Just a
beach.
bit. Just a
Just a little
bit.
bit, just a little bit.
Okay.
But
Got it.
what
Got it.
what a lot of people don't know is that it has a fantastic student culture, a culture of activism, a culture of community. And so, when I look back and as we'll talk a little bit about my career transition into D&I, but when I look back, I can see threads in myself throughout both my college experience, my high school experience, and everything after that as well. And so, when I was at Santa Barbara, I was a double major and minor, so I was majoring in political science and business economics with emphasis in accounting, and I minored in Black studies. And so I was taking a lot of courses, but I was engaged. I loved a piece about connecting with people. I love this idea of creating campus culture. I love this idea of being a part of different affinity networks and affinity circles. And so even now today, when I look back, there was definitely breadcrumbs that brought me to this, to where I'm at today. But no, I had no idea, had no, and I think there's a lot in there where no one's going to actually know. I think you have to be a bit open to and flexible about where life is going to take you, but build on a set of skills and a set of things that are true to you. And so I still believe that today. So.
Love that. Love that. The part that I want to go back to when you talked about was saying that UC Santa Barbara was a little bit of a party school. Any school whose mascot's name is Olay is an absolute party school, right? Like I refuse to hear anything else. So what I'm gathering from that court is like, hey, not in the context of being a negative, right? But you've always been somebody who's had a heart for the work, right? But when you talk about your experience leaving out of UC Santa Barbara with your first role out of school, right? We talked about Deloitte. Um, how different was the corporate experience when you were first coming out of school compared to what you see now? And did you see this type of seat for yourself, right? Did you see yourself in the head of diversity, inclusion, and belonging for a corporation like General Mills?
Yeah, well, I came out of I graduated undergrad back in 2005, and then I will absolutely say, I think without question that the workforce and the work culture has changed drastically. And my first when I first came out, I started at Deloitte. Deloitte's a phenomenal company. I have nothing but great things to say about my experience there. But I was telling people this story just the other day is that when I started my career, I came into work the first few days, and my senior manager and the partner on the engagement were all wearing triple pleated pants and a Brooks Brothers button down. And if you don't know, triple pleated pants those are the pants with a lot of pleats. So you got a lot of
Yep.
pleats running
Steve
through.
Harvey special, right?
And so next day I come in, they're wearing triple pleated pants, a Brooks Brothers button down. So that very first weekend, what do you think I did? I went and got some triple pleated pants
You
and a
had them.
Brooks Brothers button down. And that's, triple pleated pants. That's about two or three too many pleats for me. I don't need that many pleats. And so, but the moral of that story is when you first start that career, you're just trying to figure out, hey, what am I supposed to do well here? Right? What am I supposed to do to actually, fit in? What am I supposed to do to make sure my bosses like me, that I'm doing well? And you sometimes start doing things that you're like, hey, this is the mechanism I'm going to do to fit in, is I'm going to dress like everybody else dresses, right? Or I'm going to show up how they show up.
Yeah.
And I would absolutely say that has changed for the better, and that not all companies are there, but I very much feel that General Mills, we're a company where, yeah, you don't need to go buy triple pleated pants and show up to work that way. You do get to, as you see your panelists, they're all wearing a little something different. If you saw them in the office, they'd be dressed up. There is that conformity doesn't necessarily exist as much now. That is always some shape or form of that, but I think our workplaces have become much more accepting and understanding that it's that individuality and that difference and that diversity that's actually the richness that people bring to the job. And so, it is tough though. It's tough just because you're navigating an environment that is new. You're trying to figure out your place in it. And that can be, really scary. It can be
Yeah.
really scary, but at the same time, it's also really exciting. And so,
Yeah. No, no, no. It makes sense, man. It's I have my own fair share of triple pleated pants. That was probably three pleats too much for my weight. To go back first to the audience, right? You all, I asked you a Pittsburgh related question and did not give you the answer. I apologize. The answer is French fries. We put French fries on everything. We put it on sandwiches, salads. Um, Geez, what don't we put it on is probably a better question. If a place does not offer French fries, it probably doesn't exist in Pittsburgh, right? Like, so just so you all know, thank you to all of you who said French fries in there. Amanda will be responsible for getting Abby Milano. Got it. Amazing. So we have somebody there. So, Courtney, kind of jumping back into this, right? We've talked about Deloitte, we talked about UC Santa Barbara, and then from Deloitte, you transitioned into Consortium, which is an MBA, we'll call it one of the MBA prep programs, and probably when it comes down to longevity and longstanding. When you're in that program where you have corporations just kind of clamoring for underrepresented talent in that way, what made General Mills stand out? Like, we got to get the story in front of the audience, and we got to get the story directly from the source.
yeah, well, I feel for me at General Mills, when I left accounting, and I pretty much knew I was going to do, I want to do something completely different. And so,
Mhm.
I started down a path around marketing and brand management. And the first thing you learn about if you're thinking about a marketing and brand management company is that General Mills just has some of the best brands in the world, if not the best brands in the world. And so everybody knows our brands. A lot of times people don't fully understand, the company behind the brands, but a lot of our introductions is through cheering Cheerios or it's through Nature Valley or Totino's. But then as you start talking to people, because I had spent time, I'd seen a lot of different company cultures. I got to, see firsthand where you watch people come into work who do not want to come into work. You see firsthand where people are like, oh man, this is not an environment that's healthy. It's not an environment. And when I started talking to folks about their experiences at General Mills, when I started talking about, tell me about the culture, and culture is one of those tough things where it's always easier to live it so you can understand it, but people also can describe it to you. I realized it was a culture that shared a lot of the same values I shared, right? And when I first interned at General Mills, I had managers who were leaving. They were like, "Hey, I got to go at 4 o'clock because I got 4:30 soccer practice where I'm teaching my daughters. I'm the coach of my soccer's daughter team, or the coach of my daughter's soccer team." Or people prioritizing, hey, your health or well being. Like there was just things that showed up in how people acted and how people treated each other, and the underlying values of all of that. Where I'm like, there's something special here, And I am originally from California, and candidly, even though I interned at General Mills in Minneapolis, I had every expectation I was probably going to go back to California. If you're from California, you get it.
You
If you
get it.
visited California, you get it.
Yeah.
And here I am 11 years later. And a large testament of that is just the fact that I found something special here. And I realized that there was something in the culture where people truly prioritized each other, where they did put people first. And that one of our core values of doing the right thing all the time actually held true. And people really lived that day in, day out.
I love that. I love that. And so you came over, you went through this, you started in marketing out of now. There's also another story that I need you to talk about. Me and you had talked about it before, but we got to talk about the choir, right? You got to tell them about the choir because I feel like we're setting unfair expectations, but we got to hear about the choir.
Yeah, so General Mills, my MBA year, they hosted the consortium every year. Consortium, and so it's a consortium for graduate studies and management. They have this annual program called the Orientation Program, and one year General Mills is one of the hosts of this program. And so you had about 300, 400 incoming MBA students on the General Mills campus. And if you come to our campus, what you'll see is you walk down a hallway, and to get to our cafeteria, you have to go down this escalator. And so as we were coming down the escalator, there was this amazing, it's a choir, it's a group called Sounds of Blackness. And they were at the bottom of the escalator singing one of the most uplifting songs. So it's like 7:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden you walk in, I'm like, is that a choir? And you're like, what's going on? And you come down the escalator to see these people singing. You're like, oh my goodness, it's like a calling is coming up from below and above. And so it was one of the most remarkable experiences. And so every time I go down that escalator, in the back of my head, I can kind of hear Sounds of Blackness back there. So
I love that story. I will forever love that story. Sounds of Blackness, think Mills. That's how we get talent like Courtney Schroeder. So, all those who need to take notes, let's make sure we're still taking notes. Court, I think one of the things that I want to touch on too, right? Like during your time with General Mills, you've been so involved in our employee networks, whether from your seat in diversity or also the involvement that you have through Black Champions Network or even the other networks that you ally for. When it comes down to development, right? What recommendations would you have for the audience as we kind of sit here and, these are sophomores that are going into junior year, right? Like they're preparing for maybe that first internship, but maybe that second, and they're kind of starting to put stuff together. What type of recommendations would you have for them, and what type of development would you want to kind of think about or want them to think about?
yeah, well, I think as you think about where you at and where you want to, the number one thing I think for all of us need to constantly do is just an understanding what do you really want to do. Everyone's going to be out there. So you ask anybody nowadays, everybody's busy, everybody's got a lot. But at the core of all of this is going to be what kind of questions and what kind of problems do you want to solve? What kind of skills do you gravitate towards? And what do you really want to do with your time? Because what you want to do is you want to find a place where you feel like you're living somewhat in your purpose, that you're doing the things you're meant to do, that you're getting to use the skills you want to do. So the very first thing is that while there's going to be a lot of things that grab your attention, you need to be clear on what you personally want and what's going to help you grow and what's going to make you happy in your career. And so you got to start there because you're going to have a lot of opportunity. But in terms of actually like what is a tactical thing day in, day out you can do, sometimes it's the little stuff. It's the blocking and tackling. It's the showing up prepared. It's the taking of the notes. It's whatever organization system is getting you through college, refining that, making the most of that, right? It's sometimes it's actually just doing the day in, day out stuff, that's sending that follow-up email, making sure you're building connections and networking, things like that, where sometimes we think about the big ticket things of like, hey, maybe I should go to study design thinking, or maybe I need to go get additional degree. And while that might hold true for you, I've actually found that especially for our interns, the ones who show up and are dedicated to doing the day in, day out stuff really, really well, that is a fantastic start. Because I'll tell you now, it's going to be hard to progress anywhere if you're not doing the basics pretty well. And so I would absolutely say, don't overcomplicate things. Make sure keeping track of your time, you're keeping track of you have a project plan, things like that will really help you show up well. And then depending on where you're at, hone your craft, right? Really understand and reach out to folks, build that network, learn from others, think about how you can actually grow as a professional. Because while you got to understand your why, why are you doing this? What do you want to do with it? Your career is a journey, and one day you'll be the older person. You won't be the young buck like they were saying earlier. You'll be the older person. But no matter where you're at in your career should always be about growth, right? And that growth is going to have to come from you identifying how you want to grow, being proactive about that growth, and then actually carving out time to make sure you're growing yourself. So
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Courtney, thank you for your time. Thank you for your recommendations, right? Like, do the daily work. This is for the audience, right? Like, do the daily work. Um, this whole corporate thing, right? Like, it's not always easy, right? And that's why we get, compensated for our time, right? But it also doesn't have to be complicated. Do the daily work. Make sure you show up. Control the things that you can control, like your attitude, right? And the type of energy that you show up with. Those are all things that are within your control. And Courtney, thank you for living in your purpose and also the impact that you've had on all of us. Appreciate you, man, and thank you.
I appreciate the time, Brian, and pleasure meeting everyone out there. You're in for a treat with this upcoming panel.
Awesome, awesome. Well, so just kind of kicking forward to the panel, we've got, I saw that, I'm a proponent of using rock stars, but I saw that commercial where it says, please don't call corporate people rock stars. And I am very self-conscious about it now. But we have an absolute incredible panel of just young leaders in our organization who some have started as recent as a few years ago, and then others have been around a little bit longer. But for the audience, I saw you all talking about it a little bit earlier. We talked about hometowns. We talked about what foods from Pittsburgh. What is your favorite General Mills product? All right. I need to know your favorite General Mills product. Drop it in the chat. Tell us what your favorite General Mills product is. Love it. Love it. Love it. And as we're doing that, I am going to open up the floor for our development panel that we have with 6 absolutely incredible people. And what we're going to do is we're going to go around the room and we're going to get to each individual person, and we're going to go with name, what college you went to, right? So we're repping schools, what role you're in presently, your pronouns, and why do you stay at General Mills, right? So a lot of that information's here on the slide, but just name, pronouns, um, your role, what school you went to, and why do you stay? And I'm here if we forget some in the middle, but we will start with Hallie. Hallie, we're coming to you first.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hallie Biles. I went to the University of Michigan. My majors were bachelor's in material science engineering and master's in manufacturing engineering. I'm currently a supply chain project manager, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And the reason why I stay at General Mills, I would say, is because of all the growth opportunities that are available across all the levels, and the win as a team mentality that is a big part of our culture here at General Mills.
Love it, love it, love it. Izzy, I'm coming to you.
Love it. Thank you, Brian. Hello, my name is Izzy. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I went to the University of Minnesota where I studied management information systems as well as Spanish and strategy. Right now, I'm in our early career program for the digital and technology side. So I'm in my second rotation of 2 one-year long rotations where I'm serving as a delivery analyst on our strategic revenue management team. So I work specifically with our omni-channel retailers. And I love this question. but I will admit that my answer is a little cheesy, but it's totally the people. I it's probably lame to say, but my best friends are here. I come to work excited every day to like chit chat and do the little things, and the people really they make the entire culture. So
Love
that's
that.
mine.
Hey, listen, it's not cheesy if it's honest, right? I mean, it can still
Just
be
being
cheesy
real.
even if it's honest, but I saw Christian looking at me like, Brian, it's still cheesy if it's honest. It's actually more cheesy if it's honest. No. Um, Gabby, coming to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. So excited for everyone to be here. I am Gabby Rodriguez. I am currently an HR manager in our pet food business. So Blue Buffalo, if you've ever heard that, hence all of the dog trees floating around my head. I came from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign for undergrad. I'd studied psychology, communication, and leadership. And then I went back for my graduate degree in human resources and industrial relations. Just forgot pronouns, she, her. I'm from the Chicagoland area. So all of you who just said that you're from the Chicagoland area, hello. Why I stay at General Mills? There are so many reasons why, but I'll pick one and you tell me if it's cheesy. But I feel like
I am not the proprietor of all things cheesy. I'm not wearing that.
I feel like I truly belong here. I am a proud quadruple minority. I'm a woman, I'm Hispanic, I'm a part of the LGBTQ plus community, and I have invisible disabilities. And there is a place for each one of those identities at General Mills. I show up every single day being my true authentic self, and that's all I could ever ask for, really.
I love that. I mean, like no, it's not cheesy. To your quadruple representation, I think is an example of the intersectionality that's accepted, right? I love when I'm in meetings and Gabby's there because it's like, I know worst case scenario, I'm getting a good smile. And then we're going to go and figure out how we need to go forth with everything we need to do. So really excited about that. Alan, coming over to you.
Yes, glad to be here today. Team, my name is Alan McClure. I go with he, him pronouns. I went to the University of Arkansas, so Woo Pig Sooie there, majored in marketing, and now I am an account manager in sales on our e-commerce business. So originally from Dallas, Texas, but currently reside in the beautiful Tampa, Florida. So.
Now, I've never asked you this before, so forgive me. You're born in Dallas. Does that mean you're a Cowboys fan?
No. I claim Dallas as home, but was born in Boston. So moved to Dallas at 13. By then, I was
you're
already
a Patriots fan?
Yeah, Patriots.
That's even worse. Oh man, no,
Yeah.
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Is
I'm a
that
Steelers
because
fan,
of
so
the
yes, it
Steelers?
is
Yeah,
worse.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm just kidding. I love Alan.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan. Isaiah, coming to you.
Sweet. I'm Isaiah Pilstrom. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I went to the Western Illinois University where I studied finance. I'm currently part of our financial leadership development program where I work on our global business, Old El Paso. And the reason why I continue to stay at General Mills, there's probably two big reasons. One being I'm surrounded by some of the brightest and smartest people who are extremely motivated to work every day on our business. And the second being I can be my authentic self. So I show up every day as Isaiah. I don't show up as anybody else, which is extremely energizing every single day.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Isaiah. And my man Christian, passing it to you.
Thank you. I want to start. I've known Alan for a long time. We were in the intern, same summer, our intern year, and I did not know he was a Patriots fan. I need to rethink my friendship a little bit.
And I'm only not a Patriots fan because of the amount of pain they've caused me as a Steelers fan, right?
I am
it is solely pain-based.
Entirely fair.
It is solely pain-based, right? Like it is a trauma response. But go ahead, Christian.
No worries. Christian Spiegel, everybody. Nice to see everybody, and thank you for having me. I went to Howard University and I studied supply chain management. So shout out to all my HBCU people out there. And then I'm originally from New Jersey. I grew up in Jersey City. So shout out to the Jers. And why I stay at General, I'm in our supply chain. I'm a replenishment operational modeling manager. Man, that title is a tongue twister.
Yeah, break that down. You got to break it down. There was a lot of big words all at once.
Yeah, basically it's a really long title to say I am, projecting and modeling our supply chain and warehouse needs for the future. And so doing a lot of good work there. And why I stay at General Mills, I mean, there's so many reasons. A lot of people brought them up earlier. The ERG employee resource groups that we had, the people. I would say the biggest thing is I'm a super optimistic person and a super positive person. And I love the feeling of I can truly say what I need to say or be myself and don't feel like anybody's taking anything I'm saying in a bad light. People around the company assume a positive intent all the time, and I assume positive intent all the time. And I never feel like anybody is trying to slight or get the better of anybody, which is really nice to feel in the workplace.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So for all of the audience, right, one of the things, we got a lot of tongue twisters, right? Like we like titles, we like abbreviations, but we've asked everyone to say the whole word, all of the words. So we're trying to be conscious of you all and trying to help out. But when you all hear, the other part that you didn't see from that slide was everyone talking about their employee network that they're a part of. So I want to break that down really quickly, 15, 30 seconds. We have 7 groups that are enterprise-wide or organization-wide that we have that are for individuals that identify or that would like to ally for underrepresented groups. And in those groups, you have specific professional development opportunities, you have networking opportunities, right? And these organizations and these groups are longstanding parts of who we are as General Mills, right? Like our BCN, for example, which is our Black Champions Network, has been around for 30 plus years, right? I mean, I don't know companies that have been around for 30 plus years, and we've had an employee network that's been around for that long, right? And we have everything from BCN to the Disability Network, which is helping us identify and also learn to be able to be more supportive of both, whether they are employees or anything else that we have in moving forward, or families or different things along those lines. So just wanted to be clear on those employee networks. And as an intern, you have an opportunity to be a part of those networks over the summer. So let that be another piece as far as General Mills internship. So first question, I am running to Isaiah. So what advice would you give these sophomores and who will be juniors applying for internships when they don't have a ton of experience yet, right? So how can they stand out in the crowd of, when we talk about General Mills internships, we get a lot of intern applicants, right? So how did they stand out? How did you stand out?
Totally. So I want to break my answer into kind of 2 different sections. And this question really kind of identifies with me because I didn't have any prior finance or a internship within an office setting prior to my internship at General Mills. So I was a student athlete on campus. I was a swimmer, which took up a ton of my time. So I didn't have time to get prior internship experience. So I really tried to highlight my experience being part of a team, right? Which I think everyone who's in school can talk about, whether you're on a group project or you're part of another on-campus involvement, such as maybe, a club or an association or intramural sports, whatever it might be, along with highlighting also your leadership experience as part of those groups. The second portion of that is I would really try to highlight your authentic self and part of your application, right? So in terms of those campus involvement, clubs, associations, whatever it might be, really kind of highlight your soft skills that you have. So maybe it's problem solving, communication skills, attention to detail, time management, right? Being a student on campus, you deal with all these things on a day-to-day basis. You probably just don't think much about it. And really be clear about your motivation, like why General Mills, right? I think there are so many different companies out there, but why do you want to work here? And then during your interview, really think about the business and highlight how you would really add value or how you'd really want to be part of the team.
Love that. So you, to kind of put it in a quick little nutshell, you exemplified your being a part of a team experience. You really articulated how you could impact results, right, as well, too. And then you were just Isaiah, right? And you found the right company for you, and it really worked out.
Exactly. Couldn't say it any better.
Boom. So I would, we'll move on from there and we will go to Christian. So how has networking and mentorship played a part in your advancement, right? We just talked about your role with all the letters, but it means a lot. And you've also progressed a lot in the organization in your time here. So how has mentorship and networking played a part in that advancement in your career?
Yeah, I'll break it apart as well. Mentoring and networking has been huge for me personally. I mean, even just to how I started with General Mills. I started with General Mills through MLT. One of my mentors in college actually was the one who introduced me to MLT and got me to fill out the application. So she's responsible for me even being in the door at General Mills. But throughout my career, the BCN, our ERG groups that our employee resource groups that we talked about earlier, just having a group of people that are there to support you in any situation. You have some people that you can call to talk through problems. You have some people that you can call to network and strategy on like what your career should look like. You have some people you can call to, just talk about what you're doing, so that way they can go and sing your praises to the rest of the company. And so just doing that has really pulled me a long way. I've been fortunate to be on a lot of great teams, and then also some of my managers have pulled me into a lot of great opportunities to show my talents to the company, and it's resulted in a lot of opportunities for me.
I love that. I love that. So, I mean, you utilize the employee networks to be able to build more of a cohesive brand across, right? Like, and then we're able to really turn that into just opportunities for growth, right? And ultimately, to the point that Courtney made, you still got to do the work, right? And you got to show up and improve on a consistent basis. So we love that. Hallie, I'm coming to you. So one of the things that we talk about, and I know I'll speak from personal experience, right? Like I was such a fan of leadership development programs when I was coming out, quite plain because I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? So I was like, ooh, I can get more leadership skills. And worst case scenario, that will not harm me. One, was that the same thought you had? But two, tell us more about how your experience with that in General Mills, and do you feel like it's really jump-started your career?
So short answer, yes. I do believe those experiences jump-started my career. I have had the pleasure of interning and being a part of a rotational program at General Mills. So previously I had tried out other roles such as R&D and quality, and I was looking for, a new experience in my upcoming internship. So I ended up getting an internship here at General Mills at one of our cereal and snacks plants, and I immediately fell in love with the fast-paced environment that is manufacturing. It was a great way to step out of my comfort zone and try something new for a couple of months. And what I loved about the internship was that I was given projects that gave me an opportunity to make a real difference to the business and to the people and the systems at the plant.
I love
I
that.
I love the plant so much that I then returned and did the 2-year rotational program. And what was special about that was that I got to rotate through multiple roles and get a head start on figuring out what I wanted in my short and long-term career plan to look like. So, for someone who wasn't 100% certain about what role I wanted to do straight out of college, this program was perfect for me. I got to explore multiple roles in a short period of time. And I think the program really helped me figure out what energized me, what didn't energize me. I learned how to exercise different muscles depending on the role and the situation I was put in. And overall, I got a really good glimpse into how I can make my mark at General Mills.
I love that. I love that. I mean, just like you got the opportunity to, I think that my favorite word that you just said was like explore, right? And I feel like so many of us are in, you don't know what you don't know, and you can only know what you experience, right? Like, so you gotta go and explore and understand those pieces. So I love that you used that word choice. That was amazing to me. I'm looking at the chat. One, I got a marriage proposal in the chat. So that's one thing that we're all going to laugh about. And I'm happy everybody got it. So thank you. But Izzy, one of the things that we also talked about in the chat that I see happening is people talking about Betty's family and representation, and how our employee networks have played such an important part in people's lived experience within our company, right? So when I talk about the culture, right, and we tend to talk about, hey, how we were the first Minnesota-based company that flew the pride flag, right, and all the other things that we can think about as far as how we've been first. What's the culture like for you here at General Mills?
I love this question, Brian. Thank you. Yeah, I think that there's been a little bit of chat going on with this too. But something that I really want to talk about is I think Gabby absolutely nailed it when she talked about showing up and being able to be your true, authentic self in every category that hits. I'm a true believer that when you're looking for a job, culture is everything. I'm not somebody who was fortunate enough to land an internship here at General Mills, but I did start out here in the full-time program and immediately felt welcomed, like the helpful energy, and truly just everyone here is there for you. It's something that I want to stray away from saying like we're like a family, but truly like everyone here is my family. It's my best friends. And I would say that the culture itself is not one of those places where it's like, oh, you just get out of it what you put in. You really will get embraced. You're going to be welcome to wherever you are and however you show up. And one of my favorite things about the company is our awesome employee networks. Amanda put some of the networks in the list as well, but I'm a member of many of our employee networks, including our Women in Digital and Technology Network, our Disability Network, and our Betty's Family Network, which is the LGBTQIA+ network. And I think that being able to be a member of these networks and growing my community with people that are not just similar to me, but allies, has
Mhm.
been absolutely life changing for me. I'm somebody that never anticipated being able to talk about like being queer at work. I never anticipated coming out to my family or like having the opportunity to speak in a panel like this where I'm like, sharing with you all like I have invisible disabilities. I have things that you wouldn't necessarily put on a job application, but I think truly make how I show up every day a lot more authentic to who I am. And it's not something here that you'll ever be like questioned about or have to defend yourself for. It's celebrated and it's so welcomed. So, long story short, I absolutely love the culture here, and I think that it's made up of the people like what you're hearing from here. And truly, it's the biggest part of what I think makes General Mills is just the way that we're accepting, open, and just and so welcome. Also very diverse as a
Mhm.
culture and as a company, which I think bringing in those diverse perspectives is what's truly helped us to stay at the forefront. So yeah, I love the
I
culture.
love it.
It's great. It's fun. It's spunky. It's goofy. It's silly. All of the good things.
I love this. I love it. Love it. Love it, Izzy. Thank you for that. And thank you for being Izzy. Right. I mean, like that's what we get the benefit of, like when you create this type of culture where people feel empowered to be themselves, then also you get all the superpowers that come with them being fully who they are. Right. So General Mills gets the benefit of creating a space where Izzy can be safe to be Izzy, and then Izzy gets to be complete superhero Izzy. Right. Like that is not an accident, right? And that's something that's really, really important for all of us. So thank you for being you, and thank you for continuing to spread your word, right? Like, and that's something that's so important for all of us. Um, Gabby, coming over to you. So um, we've talked about how competitive it is for talent, right? And I'm knowing Gabby's background, right? Like I know that there were more than just General Mills internships out there or companies that were looking for you when you were coming through and coming out of school and making that selection. What were some of the, just plainly, right? Like, do you have any tips on how you figured out what was the right, what made General Mills right for you?
Yeah, this is a tough question because it was a process.
Yeah.
Just like I'm sure a lot of you have already gone through, like when you are going through internship recruiting, it is a tough process. It can be really, I'm just going to use the word tough, like it's tough. And so when I was going through internship recruiting, I was in graduate school, and part of the program is solely internship recruiting. And so the first few months is only going through that process. And so you're going through so many info sessions and learning about so many different companies, and all of them say that they're amazing, they're great, their people, their culture, their development is amazing. And there's a lot to take in. And so, you know, you go from, at least for me, like 20 info sessions one week. The next week I had 10 interviews with different companies, and it was a lot. And so you're trying to balance all of the information, but also trying to like dig deep and really know what's important to you. And so when I was going through internship recruiting, you're right, I was thankful enough to get multiple offers from different companies, and General Mills was one of those companies. And so it was such a hard decision, but I ended up going with another company because at that time it was a better fit for me. Location, the company's purpose, all of that. And so it was, again, a hard decision, but I had to turn down General Mills. I go through my internship and I knew that there just something was missing. I got a lot of great experience. I was growing, I was getting important work, but the culture there, the people there just weren't my people. It wasn't my culture. And so, I come back, I'm like, all right, I had to go through recruiting again for a full-time job. I have no idea what I'm going to do. And actually, without me reaching out or anything, General Mills reached back out to me and said, hey, Gabby, we remember you from internship recruiting last summer. How would you like to come and interview for full-time? And one, I was super excited because it was, again, such a hard decision to turn them down the first time. And second, I was like, yeah, I need a job. Like, I'll have an interview. And so they flew me out to Minneapolis and had my interviews, and I met with incredibly kind, intelligent, hardworking people. And I knew coming out of interviews, I'm like, if I get an opportunity to go to General Mills, I am taking it without a doubt. Again, like going through internship recruiting, going through full-time recruiting, I knew it was a done deal if I was going to have that chance. The next day, they called me up and said, do you want a job? I said, yeah, like, let's start tomorrow.
Like game over.
Yeah, basically. And so I say all of that. It was a really tough decision. You do with the information that you have at the time and know that nothing is set in stone. Like, as you evolve, as you grow and you develop, you will know what is right for you and where you want to move on. And so I wasn't able to be lucky enough to go through General Mills internship, but I'm now here full time a little over 3 years later, and I'm still absolutely loving it.
I love that. I love that because it also speaks to, right, like great talent's great talent, right? And so many of you all on the call are probably dealing with a lot of companies that are throwing a lot of things, right? But you got to kind of experience it to see and know what's real and what isn't, right? Like, but you got to experience it. You have to have that experience. And the great thing about a company like us is we are not opposed to, like, hey, if we loved you last year, we're not upset, right? Like, we still love you this year coming up. So that's something that's really, really important for us and kind of moving forward. Alan, I want to come to you. So if you could go back in time and change anything about how you approached your internship and early career process, what would those things be and why would you change those?
Yeah.
This is like a dating question. I feel like this, I'm like on speed dating.
I know. And I feel like don't want to change anything, right? Or give that advice because everything, like the good and the bad, kind of molded me over the almost 7 years I've had here into who I am and how I work now. But I'll keep it simple and just give 3 things. I'd say first, I would tell myself to just always be curious, ask questions, make sure I'm seeking to understand things, because I know one thing that some people don't do early on in their career, and I know I didn't ask enough questions. So I wanted to come in and make sure my team knew that I knew what I was doing, and frankly, I didn't, right? As nobody does. And so just don't be afraid to ask those questions. I remember early on when I was an analyst in sales, I was in Excel every day, and I thought I knew Excel, but I wasn't an Excel whiz. If I had just taken the time to ask for help on, is there a quicker way to do this, to analyze this data, I would have saved myself countless hours. And those examples go, so stay curious, and that remains early in your career all the way through your career. Second, I would say give yourself grace, just because you won't know everything. And I've been here almost 7 years, I still don't know everything. And I know a lot of people at General Mills and coming into like the workforce, we're perfectionists. We want to have it all day one, be the expert in the room, and that's just not the case. And so make sure you know that. And then guess what? One day you'll wake up and you are managing people. You're teaching people things. You're the go-to expert in your field, and that doesn't happen overnight. And so make sure you're giving yourself grace throughout the process. And lastly, I'd say find your people and your personal network and keep them close. Because although we have these broader networks and everybody's fantastic, you're going to have your core group that you go to as mentors that are teaching you things, that are watching you, and they're the ones that are going to keep you in line at the end of the day. If you're straying off the path, if you need advice, this is the group that you can always rely on. And it's so important to have that even on your worst of days, making sure you've got a group that you can connect with and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. How can I think about this differently? What advice can you give? And I mean, at the end of the day, that's having that group is the reason I'm still here today. So those would be my 3 pieces of advice to tell younger Alan. So
amazing, 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 amazing. I think Alan, just kind of contributing to it as well. You're someone who's absolutely, like, I think the curiosity piece is absolutely 1000%, right? Like, if Alan has a question, he's asking it, and that is the best part of it, right? Also, the only thing I've learned about Alan that is bad is what I just learned today, and that was that he's a Patriots fan. So that's the one thing he's not going to live down, and
yeah,
we're going to hold on to that, you know? So, and just because you are a Patriots fan, we are going to close this panel out, and then we're going to get to Amanda, who's going to tell you all about internships. So stick around, stick with us, right? We're right here. But 30 seconds to talk through your final tip for everyone as they are starting their internship journeys, or if they have an internship this summer or they're applying this summer for next summer. What would be the one 30-second tip for advice that you would give to that group? Alan, we're starting with you.
Yeah, I would say a lot of times the mistake people make when they're going for internships is they think that it's just it's a one-sided company looking to see if you're a great fit for them. But I would say what you need to do is make sure that that's the company that's a good fit for you as you're interning, right? Make sure that they're in line with your morals, in line with what you want to do. They're taking your strengths and making you only stronger, and they're taking those weaknesses and turning them into an opportunity area for growth. And so just make sure you're looking at it as though you're interviewing the company as well as them you. So yep.
Love that, love that, love that. Isaiah, coming to you.
I would say make sure to set up time with people to ask questions and really set up to build that rapport. Like, there's no such thing as a bad question. And I think when you ask questions right, it really shows that you're engaged and interested. So that would be my last second spiel about asking questions. And finally, making the most of your time at school along during your internship.
Love it, love it. And when you say make the most of your time while you're at school, you mean extracurriculars, leadership? Is that what you're talking?
All of the above.
All of the above. Got it. Amazing. Christian, coming to you.
All right. We've heard a lot about, being curious, networking, and, also engaging yourself. But, I think it's important that you take the time to reflect on those experiences once you've gone through them as well. So keeping like a playbook as you go through all of your internship experiences and as you go into the workforce is super critical to building your brand, so you can actually talk through what you've experienced, what you've been through, what are my strengths. Your resume is not big enough to pack all of that in. You can only fit a couple of experiences on your resume. And so having that playbook so you can look back to reflect is important.
Having a playbook and just reflecting on your experience and figuring out, hey, did this work? Did this not work? Did I like it? Did it just happen and I didn't like it? All those things. All right, awesome. Love that. Love that. Hallie, coming to you.
I would say be open to try new things and always back yourself. You're not always going to tick every box a future employer or team is looking for, but leverage your experiences, leverage your strengths, and highlight your potential. Companies like General Mills that value development and growth in their employees will see that potential and want to invest in you. So be confident in yourself and be confident in the impact that you can have.
I love that. Be confident in your impact. I love that. Izzy.
Yes. Okay. There's been such good advice that it's like I got to think of something new.
No pressure, Izzy. No pressure.
I would say the biggest thing to keep in mind is just take care of your mental health as you're going through this process. I think we all know that the job application process is very challenging. It can be rough, like you're going to be doing a lot of interviews, and I want you to never forget your value and know what you're bringing to the table. Take care of yourself and reflect on what you've accomplished and who you are, and don't let yourself forget that. It can be a little hard sometimes, but don't forget your value and worth. Take time to take care of yourself.
Love that. Gabby, bring us home.
Oh, wow. Y'all said amazing things. Totally agree with that. First, I would say give yourself some grace. You are not going to know everything day one, and you shouldn't. You're going to make mistakes. You should, and that's how you learn and you grow, and that's how you adapt. So give yourself some grace. And then the second thing, if I can just say one little second thing, is be yourself. Like, we want you here because you are you. So bring yourself authentically to work and you will be just fine.
You all are absolutely incredible. So one of the things I want to go back into this really quickly, for final notes, and this is for the audience. Why do I like you as a company, right? Like, not why do you like me? Why do I like you? Ask questions. I need to know the answers so that I can feel better about how I go forward. I need to reflect, be confident in your abilities, take care of you and your mental health, and then give yourself grace, right? Like, all of these things are saying the same thing. You have to put you at the center of this process. Thank you all. And Amanda's going to jump into talking a little bit more about internship process. Amanda, take it over.
All right. I'm ready to steal the platform from Brian finally. And I would appreciate if like a couple people threw some engagement proposals in there for me so I can beat him. He's my boss. So I just want to show him who's who. All right. Well, I know a lot of you from our pre-event survey are really looking forward to learning about our internships, just kind of the basics, what majors, what are the qualifications, and then how you can apply early. So like I told you, we are giving everyone at You Are Here the opportunity to apply early and first for our internships. We'll assess you before we start assessing everyone else on campus. So this is a new thing. I'm excited to see what kind of talent comes through this flow. And I'm excited to get to know you guys and just, see your skills and talents and see if you're a good fit for General Mills and if we're a good fit for you. So let me quickly go over some basics and some of the nitty gritty, and then we'll let you free. So internship basics. General Mills internships are 10 weeks long. They're just summer internships, usually late May to July. They're paid, of course, 40 hours a week. And for locations, we have internships at our world headquarters, and then we have plants and sales field offices around the US. So there might be one close to you, there might not be. But if there's not one close to you, we do offer a relocation stipend to get you to your internship and back, as well as we partially subsidize your housing. So most people who do the internship travel there. It's not something that you go to locally. And then lastly, the coolest thing about our internships are we want every intern to get a full-time offer. If you do well, you'll get a full-time offer. And how that works is this is going to be an internship summer 2024. At the end of the summer, we give out full-time offers to interns, who did well for us. We want to join the company. You go back, finish your senior year, or your last semester if you're graduating in the winter, and then you come work for us full-time when you graduate. So it's really cool. You could go into the year with an offer in hand or an acceptance in hand. All righty. This slide, I'm not going to go over everything, and all of this that I'm putting up on the screen and telling you, I'm going to send you afterwards in an email. So don't worry about writing it all down or absorbing it, especially this slide you're not going to be able to absorb. So lots of you are asking questions about your majors. This is just a little grid that shows you all the different majors that we hire for our different internships. So I'll let you look at that for a second, and then I'll flip on, but I will be sending this to you afterwards. Timeline and expectations. So how does this early apply thing work? So today, after this event, you'll receive an email with all of the job descriptions and instructions for how to apply. Basically, I'm going to have you send me your resume and the job that you want to be considered for. That's kind of it in a nutshell. And then my email inbox will be open for you guys during April and May for applications. So I want you to take some time, spiff up your resume, and send it over to us, with what job you want to apply to. And then during the month of June, guaranteed resume review. Me and the other recruiters will look at every single resume. And then we will select a portion of you to move forward with interviews. Some people won't be selected, but I will sure let you know so you're not, getting your hopes up and wondering. And then July is when our jobs are all posted. So that shows, how early you're kind of getting a glimpse at this. Jobs are posted for everybody. Interviews will continue for You Are Here applicants. And then that's when offers can kind of start rolling out. We won't make you give an answer like right away. We'll give you enough time, and we're flexible because we know you might, want to look at other companies when they start advertising as well. And for perspective, August through October is when we go out and do all of our recruiting at schools. And just a couple tips, make sure you list your undergrad month and year on your resume, or your intended graduation month and year. Include your summer 2023 job or internships on your resume. Even if it's in the future, that's not lying or cheating. Just let us know so we know what you're planning to do. And if you don't have anything yet, it's not too late. You can find a part-time job locally, an internship locally, just so you kind of have that little experience. Because, you know, even if you don't go with us, when you go into the recruiting season in the fall, recruiters are going to really value that experience. So I'd recommend that. And then I think it was Isaiah that was talking about this. Don't forget to put your clubs, activities, volunteering, religious groups, anything that you do where you're out in the community leading, organizing, communicating with people. That's going to look really good on a resume. So that is all I got. We're 1 minute over time. Thank you all for being here. I saw so many familiar names in the chat. I will send you this email right after the meeting. If for some reason you don't get it, if they block my email, sometimes that happens with bulk emails, message me in Handshake, and I'll get that for sure. So I will kick it back over to Brian to close us out.
Hey, everybody. Nothing really major from me. We really appreciate you all being here with us on a Friday afternoon. We recognize the nature of that. So I won't keep you long. Your life and your career is your responsibility, right? You have the opportunity every single day to be able to show up and create the life that you want, right? That's one of the amazing things about this life and this world that we have here in front of us, right? Like if you all want to work in tech and you want to be a tech developer, then start building that muscle, right? Or if you want to work in sales, then start understanding what you have to do that. You all are at such an amazing time to be able to do that and just take advantage of it, right? And by take advantage of it, I mean, go and learn everything, right? Like go through all of those things and you have such an amazing opportunity in front of you. And we hope that you heard things today that made you say like, hey, General Mills, that's a company that I could get behind, right? And if you felt like that, then great. And if you didn't, that's okay too, right? But we also want you all to know that when you're looking for a company and when you're looking at a place to grow and build and spend this much time as you spend at a company, you have to find a place that really works for you. And we hope that you know that there are places that will work for you and that you could show up and be your full and authentic selves. Go and find that. You have an absolutely amazing opportunity in front of you. Thank you for giving us your time on a Friday afternoon, and Burley out.